What up, Zucci? What up, Zucci? What's up to our friends at Flowing Water Plumbing and Drain? If you're going to call it to the roast, you better bring it. Because if you don't, you will be flushed. Brought to you by Flowing Water Plumbing and Drain. I want to read this text here. Shout out to all the blue-collar workers. As we said, good morning here. Shout out Local 39 engineers.
Oh, nice.
Let me shout those out. Shout out Local 39 engineers and everybody out there getting ready for a big-time week. Here on Monday, man. Niners are going up in practice. We'll talk about them in a second. Mary Kay Cabot from the Cleveland Plain Dealer will join us at 6:50 to give us the latest on the Cleveland perspective of Brandon Aiyuk. How much smoke is there when it comes to Brandon Aiyuk? And, of course, Matt Mayoko had a tweet yesterday that made me pull up my chair and scratch my head and said, oh, boy. Because Matt Mayoko from ABC Sports Bay Area doesn't just say anything. I kind of ignore all the rumors. But then when Matt Mayoko says something about the 49ers, I listen. And he said yesterday at around 5:52 p.m., I've stated for a while that I didn't see any scenario in which the Niners would trade Brandon Aiyuk. Now, I believe it's a legitimate option. In a lot of ways, the ball is in Aiyuk's court. So contract talks between the Niners and Aiyuk have stalled. And if they trade him now, I just feel like it's bad business. Now, are you going to get Amari Cooper back? Are you going to get picks back? We'll see. We'll see. What is the compensation? I guess I won't speak until we actually see the package. But as he holds in and does everything, it comes to camp and he's around his teammates, obviously there's a disconnect and there's an impasse between the two parties here with Brandon Aiyuk and John Lynch in the front office.
Do you think the general sentiment is that either the Niners or the Niners or Brandon Aiyuk is to blame?
Shasky, I really don't get caught up into that. And the who said, he said, she said, who's to blame, what's not. Obviously, Brandon Aiyuk wants a new contract. He saw the receiver market blow up and explode. And the Niners are like, hey, we want you to pay on the 14 and we'll come back to you later. I don't know who to blame. I don't know what's going on in both parties. I'm not in those negotiations. But if we can, let's pull up some Doug Hendrickson stuff from Friday. I don't know if you know this, but we had Doug Hendrickson on from the Wasserman Group, longtime agent for Marshawn Lynch, Cam Jordan or whatnot. And he kind of talked about some of these situations with the player and how it goes down with the franchise or whatnot. So he's like, as an agent, you don't want to be too desperate. But sometimes you got to do a cold call and just wait in the lobby to try to get something done. He worked out a deal for Michael Bennett when he was holding out with the Seattle Seahawks. So it's all of these. So I don't really know who to blame. I don't know what's being said on Aiyuk's party or Aiyuk's part. I don't know what's being said on the 49ers part. So I don't know. But here we are with trade rumors swirling in the midst of trading camp.
I think that both parties share a little bit of the blame to get to this point, right? And one thing, Jake Rosenberg, who used to work in the Eagles front office, he's now working for Oklahoma. He was on a variety of podcasts the last 2 weeks because he's left the Eagles, and he was one of the main contract guys underneath Howie Roseman, and just a really smart financial guy. And he was basically saying that, the business model for a lot of these teams, and the Niners are kind of at the forefront of this for the last 10 years, has been, we pay you at the last possible second. And the Eagles have gone in a totally different direction. And the Eagles are like, hey, look, once we identify that we want you, our thought is, let's just get you signed now because every day we wait after that, the market's just going to get richer and richer and richer and richer. And yet maybe the bubble bursts at a position down the line. But if we like you and we're comfortable with the number, we're going to try to give it to you on the front end. And I've been thinking a lot about just the Niners and how they operate, and I keep hearing this is what they do. They wait till the last minute and they do, and I think that worked for a long, long, long time. But the modern athlete, they've got so much more power now than ever before. Tyreek Hill renegotiating his deal. Trent Williams wants to renegotiate his deal. Obviously, Christian McCaffrey wanted to do it. Matthew Judon in New England is going through this right now, and I wonder out loud if, Parag and the Niners and how they've done business, not that it's antiquated, not that it's the oldest way to do business, but do they need to evolve in how they come to the table with some of these modern athlete situations? Because it does feel like this has gone down the road, and it felt like they could have found a number that maybe the Niners didn't love, but was better than where we're at today, where it feels like he's going to be out the door.
Well, they did evolve, I guess, in some way, because they gave Christian McCaffrey a contract extension. Juwan Jennings signed his tender, and George Odom got re-upped. I mean, I know it's George Odom, but Christian McCaffrey got extended.
That's true.
And nobody batted an eye about it. And the Niners went out of their way and said, they didn't even do this for Nick Bosa.
Well,
they They didn't even do this for George Kittle.
But don't you think the Nick Bosa, and I think Nick was a big part of this.
But they didn't even do this.
That up.
They didn't even do this for George Kittle.
No.
They didn't do this for Fred Warner.
But they waited until the end for both those guys.
That's what I'm saying. They did business with Chris McCaffrey in the spring. They didn't wait till fall. They didn't wait till training camp. They waited till training camp for Debo, George Kittle, Fred Warner, and then play hardball with Nick Bosa, and he doesn't show up until 3 days before the Pittsburgh Steelers game in week number 1 last season. So I say all that to say you see Philadelphia take care of their guys very, very early. You know, Detroit took care of their guys very, very early. Took care of their guys all throughout the offseason. The Niners didn't. They played hardball with Brandon Aiyuk, and here we are. But they set the precedent by saying, hey, Chris McCaffrey, we'll give you your money. We'll do business a different way for you because you are the offensive player of the year. But their homegrown wide receiver, and for all their homegrown talent, again, Debo's homegrown, Fred Warner's homegrown, George Kittle's homegrown, Nick Bosa's homegrown, and they made those guys wait until training camp.
I know, but I would say my counter to you would be Debo had a down year that on his standard, a down year the year after he signed the deal.
Yeah, but it's not about that. It's about what they did before getting the deal.
No, I know.
Before they got the deal.
But the results matter.
But if you took care of those guys early in the spring, you may have gotten better years from those guys.
Well, that's kind of my point.
They came off great years, and they had to wait for their money.
Hence why I think their business model is a little outdated.
Yeah, McCaffrey came out of a great year, and they took care of him right away.
Well, he's the best player on the team.
I hear that.
You know, like very few times is the best player on the team have that.
But you can't dispute how important Debo is to the team.
No, I know. But Bonta, what I'm saying is waiting until the very end has had diminishing returns.
Exactly what I'm saying. I think we're saying the same thing.
Yeah, George Kittle got hurt. Bosa wasn't great that year. Debo wasn't great that year. I mean, good, but not on the same level. And that's why I think the Aiyuk situation.
We're saying the same thing, basically, that you didn't take care of Brandon Aiyuk in the spring, and now we're here. We're saying the same thing.
Okay, so, I think that they kind of botched this. And I'm not saying that Aiyuk he's not some saint in this thing. I think he's done some weird things that I think are nothing to the end of the world, but just some weird stuff on social media. He's showed up, which is, to me, it's like, all right, he's there. He's learning the installs. He's hanging out. He's hugging, Lynch and Shanahan on the sideline. But this thing is just really odd. I find this whole thing to be very odd. And now that there's all these rumors about, trading him to Cleveland, to me, you're not finding a player, at least at wide receiver, who's going to offset the production and what he brings to the table in Brandon Aiyuk. And I know everyone's take Amari Cooper because that was one of the rumored deals. Can I get Matthew Judon from New England? Can I get a defensive lineman? They're making about the same amount of money. I don't know what the cap implications are.
But if you do lose Brandon Aiyuk, are we ready to put that? Is Juwan Jennings ready to step up in that role?
I'm very hesitant to move Aiyuk.
Ricky Pearsall, is he ready to step up?
Did you see the reports?
Well, I see all the reports. I don't know.
Some are saying he looks great, and then other ones are saying he can't get off the ball.
Carter, put the mic on. You've been at training camp. How does Ricky Pearsall look? I trust your eyes.
He was hurt when I was there.
Okay.
Well that's great.
So I don't know what report. I don't know who's got biases. I don't know who's got agendas. Skeptical. I don't know what's what. If my eyes are not seeing it, I'm having a hard time trusting what I'm seeing out there at training camp.
I can't help with one thing. Kruger came on the show last week, and he said that he thought that Pearsall looked unbelievable to him.
Okay. I trust Kruger's eye, but all I'm saying is that the track record of the Niners, very few wide receivers come in and just dominate, and when you lose a player as good as Brandon Aiyuk, it's hard to find a replacement. And I'm sorry, I'm not here for the Kendrick Bourne and picks from New England. That's a deal I want no part of.
Yeah, I'm not with that either.
Now, I will say I went down the rabbit hole on the Amari Cooper stats. His numbers are just better than I don't know about player for player what he does versus Aiyuk. I mean, I know a lot of Raider fans have wild feelings.
I covered a lot of those Raider games. With Amari Cooper.
His numbers look good.
He's got good numbers. But then he, it kind of reminds me of a guy like Lee Evans from Buffalo. Yeah. Or who's my guy for Chris Chambers in Miami.
I loved Chris Chambers.
Yeah, but he was good for a sick game.
Yes.
Did he disappear for 3?
Yes.
Sick game, disappear for 4. That's Amari Cooper. I remember just watching him, and I'd be how does he walk off the field with only 3 targets and 1 catch? There was a lot of those games.
Does that fit this offense, though, considering we don't really
I don't know.
They don't really. It's not like a Justin Jefferson offense. He's our primary.
Right.
Does that fit? I don't know. I'm asking.
Are you going to want to get down there and get dirty and run block?
I think Aiyuk is a better player than Coop.
Yeah. Are you going to want to run block? Are you going to want to be physical? Are you a red zone threat? I know you're a deep threat, but this team doesn't throw the ball deep a lot.
That's what I'm saying.
I don't really know.
And how are you going to react when you get kind of iced out for halves and games and things? I don't know.
I don't know. All right, Mary Kay Cabot, Cleveland Plain Dealer coming up, and that's brought to you by Fremont Bank, celebrating 60 years of full-service banking with no compromises.
Lawton Skilled Nursing and Rehabilitation Center is a 5-star facility located in the Sunset District of